Have you ever found yourself sitting alone in a quiet room, staring at a family photo, and wondering what your children truly feel about you, not the surface level stuff, but deep down in their hearts? Maybe you've thought about those moments when you stepped back, perhaps after a hard conversation, or when the silence between you stretched a little too long. And maybe, just maybe, you've asked yourself if your absence left a mark on them. This isn't about dramatic exits or shouting matches. Sometimes distancing yourself happens quietly. You stop reaching out so much. You tell yourself you're just tired of always being the one to initiate. Maybe you feel unappreciated, misunderstood, or simply drained. You think, if they need me, they'll call. I've done enough. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many people, especially as they age, begin to reassess where they invest their emotional energy. We stop chasing. We begin to conserve. And sometimes that means stepping back even from our own children when the relationship starts to feel one-sided. But what you might see as protecting your peace or giving them space, they may experience quite differently. And it's in that space between intention and perception where real hurt can begin. So, what do your children actually feel when you step back? At first, it's confusion. True, quiet confusion. Most adult children don't expect their parent to withdraw. In their minds, you've always been the anchor even if imperfect. You are the one who picked up the phone, offered advice, remembered the details others forgot. When that pattern breaks, the first thing they often feel isn't anger, it's uncertainty. They ask themselves, did I do something wrong? Are they upset with me? Why don't they call anymore? And sometimes this confusion grows into guilt. But it's not the kind that leads to open conversations, it's the kind that lingers quietly in the background. It surfaces during sleepless nights, or when they see something that reminds them of you. And here's the difficult part: many adult children don't know how to bridge the gap when they feel like you've withdrawn. They think, Mom must be mad, or Dad probably doesn't want to talk. So, they wait, and you wait, and between all that waiting, time slips by. Birthdays pass, holidays grow quieter, grandchildren get taller, but the silence stretches, and no one quite knows how to close the distance. But what if I told you that, underneath that silence, under the pride or the distractions, there's often a quiet longing for reconnection. Even when they seem distant or dismissive, even when they forget to call, deep down, your presence still means more than they'll ever say out loud. The truth is, a parent's love leaves a deep impression. It doesn't fade just because your children grow up or move on. It might get buried under the weight of responsibilities or stress, or even old wounds, but it remains. Now, that's not to say every parent-child relationship can or should be mended. Some have endured years of pain or misunderstanding. Some need space. Some require firm boundaries. But even in those cases, pulling away emotionally has an effect. Because whether they show it or not, your children notice your absence. Maybe not in big dramatic ways, but in quiet ones, in their own reflections, in their parenting, in how they speak to their children. And then there's the sadness. The ache of what could have been. Missed conversations, missed laughter. Even your grown children still want to feel like your child. They want to believe your love is unconditional, that it doesn't fade with time, or performance, or mistakes. Often, they don't know how to fix the silence. They don't know what to say. So, they say nothing. And before long, the silence starts to feel normal, something time doesn't heal but deepens. That's why the choices you make today carry more weight than the regrets of yesterday. You might feel like it's too late, like they've moved on, but in most cases, they haven't, not completely. Even a simple "I've been thinking of you" can open a long closed door. Of course, it takes courage. You might feel vulnerable or awkward. Reconnection is rarely instant, but it can begin with one small act of bravery, and that could change everything. You've lived long enough to know relationships are messy, but love can heal in ways that apologies never could. Sometimes, what your children feel when you pull away isn't even about you. It's about what your absence wakes up in them. The fear of not being good enough, of being rejected. Even the most capable, grown-up children still feel the sting when a parent steps back. They might not say it, but your absence can shake their sense of identity. Because somewhere inside, no matter how old they are, they still want you to be proud of them, to care, to show up. And then, there's resentment. It's not always fair, but it's real. If they don't understand why you stepped back, they create their own story. And that story might be, they gave up on me. I wasn't enough. They probably won't say it. They might not even realize they're feeling it. But unresolved stories fill the silence. That's why even a small message, a short note, a quick call can be more powerful than you realize. It reminds them they still matter. But guilt, too, can keep them silent. Maybe they missed your birthday. Maybe they didn't show up when you needed them. Maybe they regret a sharp word or a forgotten visit. And now, they don't reach out not because they don't care, but because they're ashamed. And so, nothing happens. Again, the truth is, both of you might be waiting. Both of you might be hurting. And in the middle, there's silence, but there's also love, buried under it all. The good news is, it doesn't take a grand gesture to shift things. You don't need perfect words, just sincerity. I miss you. I'd love to talk. I know we've been distant. I'd like to change that. Simple, honest words. Sometimes they open more than years of silence ever could. Your children may not say what they admire in you, but it's there. Your endurance, your strength, the way you've carried life's burdens, the way you've kept going. Even if they don't voice it, they've noticed. And when you pull away, they miss not just your voice, they miss your example. They need you. Not as a fixer, but as a guide. Your relationship might not be perfect, but the past doesn't have to define the future. The fact that they still feel something, anything, when you're distant, that matters. It means the love is still there somewhere. They may come back slowly, awkwardly, but when they do, they'll be looking for a signal from you. Not perfection, just an open door. It's good to hear from you. I'm glad you reached out. These words matter more than you know. And if they keep showing up, even in small ways, let them. Let the relationship grow into something new. Not just parent and child, but two people who are learning to see each other clearly, maybe for the first time, because when they finally understand why you stepped back, they might also begin to understand what they could have done differently. Not always with apologies, but with effort, with consistency, with love. And here's something beautiful that happens when that shift occurs. You're no longer just a background figure in their lives. You become a steady presence again, a voice they seek, a hand they trust. No, you may not hear all the words you've longed to hear, but you might see them reflected in their actions, in how they show up, how they listen, how they pass down your words to their own kids. It's a quiet kind of healing, but often the most lasting kind. You've lived a life of love, sacrifice, and strength. And even if it doesn't always feel like it, that legacy lives on in them. They may not have said it yet, but one day, they will. Maybe not in words, but in the way they remember you. The way they love their children. The way they finally see you for who you truly are, not just as a parent, but as a person.